My name is Alyssa Rowan. I'm 33 years old, at least, not that I knew of. The pounding on my front door jolted me awake so violently that for a split second I didn't know where I was. My heart was already racing before my mind caught up. I stared at the ceiling, listening. Another knock followed, harder this time. Deliberate. Not the accidental thud of a package delivery or the hesitant tap of a neighbor asking for sugar. This was urgent. I rolled out of bed and glanced at the clock on my nightstand. 5:02 a.m. No one knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I pulled on a sweatshirt, my hands trembling just enough for me to notice. The house felt unusually still, as if it were holding its breath with me. Each step toward the front door echoed too loudly against the hardwood floor. When I opened the door, the cold morning air rushed in, and with it my neighbor, Gabriel Stone. He stood on my porch like he'd run the entire way there, even though his house was only next door. His face was pale, almost gray beneath the porch light. His chest rose and fell unevenly, breath coming too fast, too shallow. His eyes, usually distant, polite, forgettable, were sharp with something I'd never seen before. Fear. "Don't go to work today," he said. No greeting, no explanation, just that. His voice was low, urgent, like he was afraid the words themselves might be overheard. "Stay home, just trust me." For a moment, I could only stare at him. Gabriel and I barely spoke beyond nodding hellos while collecting mail or taking out trash. He'd moved into the neighborhood about a year ago. Quiet, clean-cut, always polite. The kind of man who blended into the background so completely that your brain stopped registering him as noteworthy. Seeing him like this felt wrong, like watching a statue move. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Did something happen?" He shook his head slowly, but his eyes didn't soften. "I can't explain right now," he said. "Just promise me you won't leave the house today, not for any reason." The world felt unreal in that moment. The cold air, the faint pink streak of sunrise beginning to stretch across the horizon. The hum of distant traffic starting up miles away, and my neighbor, usually emotionless, standing on my porch like a man about to fall apart. "Gabriel," I said, my voice quieter now, "you're scaring me." "Why shouldn't I go?" He hesitated. Then he leaned in just slightly, his voice dropping into a whisper. "You'll understand by noon." Before I could ask anything else, he stepped back, glanced down the street as if someone might be watching us, and walked quickly back toward his house. He didn't look back. I stood there long after he disappeared inside, my hand still resting on the doorknob. My mind raced, searching for rational explanations. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he was having a breakdown. Maybe he'd mistaken me for someone else entirely. But another part of me, the part that had learned to trust instinct over comfort, refused to let it go. And there was one more reason I couldn't simply shrug it off. 3 months ago, my father died. His death had been sudden. Official cause, a stroke, no warning, no history. One phone call that split my life cleanly into before and after. But in the days leading up to his death, he had kept trying to talk to me. "There's something important I need to show you," he'd said more than once. When I pressed him, he'd only shake his head. "It's about our family," he told me. It's time you knew. We never had that conversation. Since then, strange things had begun happening around me. A car parked near my driveway for hours at a time, windows tinted too dark to see inside. My phone ringing from blocked numbers with no one on the other end. My younger sister Sophie, who worked overseas, calling me late one night to ask if I'd noticed anyone new in the area. No one had said anything directly, but I had felt it. Something was moving in my life, quietly, intentionally, and whatever it wasn't random. I closed the door and locked it. My name is Alyssa Rowan. I'm 33 years old. I work as a financial analyst at Henning & Cole Investments. I have never missed a day of work unless I was sick. I live alone in the house I inherited from my grandmother, a quiet, structured, predictable life. That morning, I made a decision not out of fear, but out of logic. If Gabriel was wrong, I would take a personal day. If he was right, I might be saving my life without even knowing it. I texted my manager, citing a personal emergency. Then I waited. The hours crawled by. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The ticking clock in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator. Even the wind brushing against the windows sounded like someone trying to speak through the walls. By 11:30 a.m., doubt crept in. Nothing had happened. Gabriel hadn't returned. Maybe I'd let paranoia get the better of me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, expecting a spam call or maybe my manager. Instead, a calm, authoritative voice said, "Ma'am, this is Officer Taylor with the County Police Department. Are you aware of a critical incident that occurred at your workplace this morning?" My breath caught. "What incident?" "There was a violent attack at your building," he said. "Several employees were injured. We have reason to believe you were present." My entire body went cold. "That's impossible," I said. "I wasn't there." There was silence on the line. Then he said, "We have footage of your car arriving at 8:02 a.m. Your work ID was used to enter the building. You were last seen on the third floor before the attack." The room tilted. Someone had used my identity. Someone wanted me there, and someone wanted the world to believe I was. As the call continued, a terrifying realization settled in. Gabriel hadn't just warned me. He had saved me, and by noon, my life, as I knew it, was already over. The officer stayed quiet after I told him I hadn't gone to work, not the kind of silence that meant confusion. The kind that meant recalculation. "Ms. Rowan," he said at last, "can anyone verify your location this morning?" I looked around my living room, the couch where I'd sat since dawn. The mug of coffee gone cold on the table, the house I'd lived in alone for 5 years. "No," I said softly, "I live alone." There it was, the first invisible click of a trap closing. At approximately 11:47 a.m., Officer Taylor continued, "an emergency alert was triggered on the third floor of your building. A coordinated attack occurred shortly after. You were reported missing from the scene." "Missing," I repeated. "I wasn't there." "We understand your position," he replied, using the careful language of someone trained to sound sympathetic without conceding anything. "However, evidence recovered at the scene indicates otherwise." My stomach dropped. "What kind of evidence?" Another pause, longer this time. "Personal items belonging to you." The room seemed to shrink around me. "What items?" I asked. "A handbag matching one registered to you, partial fingerprints on a stairwell railing." "And your employee badge?" "That badge is in my wallet," I said automatically, reaching for it. My fingers froze. My wallet was exactly where it always was, on the counter by the door. I flipped it open with shaking hands. The slot where my work ID should have been was empty. My voice cracked. "That's not possible." "Miss Rowan," Officer Taylor said, "we are dispatching units to your address now. This is for your safety as well as for questioning. Please do not leave the premises." "Questioning," I said. "About what?" He didn't answer directly. "We'll explain everything when officers arrive." The line went dead. I stood there for a full 10 seconds, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Then panic hit. Someone had my badge. Someone had used my car. Someone had left my belongings at the scene of a violent attack, and now the police were coming to my house. I moved fast, locking doors, pulling blinds closed, turning off lights. The quiet suburban street outside suddenly felt exposed, hostile. Every parked car looked suspicious. Every passing shadow made my heart slam against my ribs. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was choreography. I tried calling my sister Sophie, but it went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't want her name connected to anything yet. Instead, I replayed Gabriel's words over and over. "Don't go to work today. You'll understand by noon." A sharp knock cut through my thoughts. Not frantic, not hesitant, controlled. "Alyssa," a voice called. "It's Gabriel." My breath caught. I didn't answer. Another knock, firm, deliberate. "We don't have much time," he said. I approached the door slowly but didn't open it. "How did you know the police would call me?" I asked through the wood. There was no hesitation in his reply. "Because they're not coming to help you." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" "They're coming to place you under federal custody." The words didn't make sense. Federal custody was for criminals. Terrorists, people who posed a threat. I haven't done anything, I said. You were never meant to, he replied. You were meant to be there. A chill crept down my spine. They staged the incident to eliminate everyone in that building, Gabriel continued. You weren't supposed to survive it. You were supposed to be the one they blamed. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. That's insane. I know, he said calmly. That's why it works. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing louder. My heart pounded. Open the door, Gabriel said. If they reach you first, you disappear. Disappear, not arrested. Not questioned, erased. I unlocked the door. Gabriel stepped inside immediately and closed it behind him, locking it with a practiced motion. He looked different up close, sharper, more alert. Gone was the quiet neighbor who waved politely while collecting mail. This man was a professional. They'll declare this house a crime scene, he said. Once they do, you don't leave without handcuffs. Why? I demanded. Why me? He scanned the windows before answering. Because of your father. The words hit like a punch. My father died of a stroke. That's what the paperwork says, Gabriel replied. It's not what happened. My chest tightened. My father was an accountant, I said weakly. He barely talked about work. That was his cover. I stared at him. He spent nearly 20 years involved in a covert federal investigation, Gabriel said. And you were the reason. I couldn't breathe. No, I whispered. That's not possible. Gabriel reached into his jacket and pulled out a black envelope. He left this for you. I took it with shaking hands. Inside was a handwritten note, my father's handwriting. Familiar, careful. Alyssa, if you're reading this, then what I feared has happened. You are not in danger because of anything you did. You are in danger because of who you are. Gabriel will explain the rest. Do not surrender yourself. If they take you, you will not come back. Tears blurred my vision. He knew, I whispered. He knew, Gabriel confirmed. And he asked me to watch over you. Who are you? I asked. Someone who owes your father his life. The sirens were closer now. You have minutes, Gabriel said. They staged this to reclaim you, not kill you. Reclaim me, I repeated. You were never just a civilian, he said. Your identity was constructed. Your birth was not an accident. My head spun. What does that even mean? It means your father discovered a classified biogenetics program, Gabriel said. One tied to powerful families, influential bloodlines. When he refused to cooperate, he became a liability. My father was murdered, I said. Yes. And now they're framing me, I said. Yes. To do what? To control the narrative, Gabriel replied. If the world believes you're dangerous, no one will question what happens to you next. A sharp rap sounded at the front door. Police, a voice called. Ms. Rowan, please open the door. Gabriel's jaw tightened. They're early. What do we do? I asked. He handed me a metal key card with a red emblem. This leads to a secure vault your father used. It contains evidence, names, files, proof. If they get you before you reach it, everything he died for disappears. Another knock, harder. Alyssa Rowan, open the door now. My heart raced, but something else stirred beneath it. Anger. They had killed my father. They had stolen my identity. They had turned my life into a weapon against me. I wasn't going to hand myself over. Show me where we need to go, I said. Gabriel nodded. We slipped out the back just as voices rose at the front of the house. A black SUV waited in the alley, engine already running. As we pulled away, I looked back once. At the house I'd thought was my safe place. It was already surrounded. By noon, the world believed I was a criminal. By nightfall, they would know I was something far more dangerous to them. The SUV cut sharply onto the main road, tires hissing against wet pavement. Gabriel drove with practiced precision, no wasted motion, no hesitation. He didn't speed recklessly, didn't draw attention. He moved like someone who understood pursuit better than escape. Behind us, two unmarked black vehicles rolled past the intersection where my street met the highway. They didn't use sirens. They didn't need to. Who were they? I asked, my voice barely steady. Not local police, Gabriel replied. Not even federal in the way you're thinking. Then what? He glanced at the rearview mirror. Asset recovery. The words chilled me more than any siren could have. I wrapped my arms around myself, staring out the window as familiar streets blurred past. Everything looked the same. Coffee shops opening, a jogger stretching at the corner, life continuing as if nothing had shattered beneath it. "They're already telling the story," Gabriel said. "By tonight, your face will be everywhere. A domestic extremist, a lone actor, mentally unstable. And you?" I asked. "What will they say about you?" "I won't exist." That answer scared me most of all. We merged onto the highway, heading north, away from the city. Silence stretched between us, thick with unasked questions. Finally, I spoke. "You said my father asked you to watch over me." "Yes." "How long?" Gabriel exhaled slowly. "Since before you were born." I turned to him sharply. "That's not possible." "It is," he said evenly. "And before you ask, no, I didn't know you personally until a year ago." I was assigned proximity, not interaction. Assigned. "By who?" I demanded. "Your father." My heart stuttered. "He built a contingency plan," Gabriel continued, "in case the investigation failed. In case he didn't survive, I was one of several." "One of several what?" "Protectors." The word hung heavy in the air. "You're not my neighbor," I said. "No," he agreed. "I'm not." The SUV exited the highway and entered a long stretch of wooded road. Trees pressed in on both sides, thick and unwelcoming. "You're going to tell me everything," I said. "Now," Gabriel nodded once. "Fair." He reached into the center console and pulled out a slim tablet, sliding it across to me. "Read the header." I hesitated, then looked down. My pulse thundered. "What is this?" I whispered. "Your file," Gabriel said, "or what's left of it." I scrolled. Medical charts, blood work, genetic markers highlighted in red. "Some of these tests, I remember them," I said. "When I was a kid, my father said they were routine." "They weren't," Gabriel replied. "They were monitoring." "For what?" "For you." I swallowed hard. "Start at the beginning," I said. "Please." Gabriel's jaw tightened, as if preparing to reopen an old wound. 20 years ago," he began, "a classified program was launched under the guise of biodefense research. Officially, it was about preparedness. Unofficially, it was about evolution." "Evolution," I echoed. "They were trying to engineer immunity," he said. "Humans capable of surviving pandemics, chemical exposure, biological warfare. Not vaccines, not treatment. What then?" "Bloodlines." My stomach turned. "They believed certain genetic traits could be activated, amplified, stabilized across generations. Families with rare markers were identified, tracked, studied. And my family," I asked, "already had them." I stared at him. "You weren't created in a lab, Alyssa," Gabriel said. "That's the part they hate most. You were born with what they've failed to replicate." I shook my head. "No, that's impossible." "It's not," he replied. "Your father discovered inconsistencies in your childhood medical records. Blood samples taken without consent. Test results flagged above clearance. He told me once my immune system was unusual," I murmured. "I never got sick." "You still don't," Gabriel said. "Not really." 1,000 small memories surfaced all at once. Flu outbreaks I'd never caught. Infections that healed faster than expected. Doctors who frowned at charts and then smiled too quickly. "They were watching me," I said. "Yes. And my father found out." "He did," Gabriel confirmed. "And when he tried to pull you out of the program, they refused. That's when he started documenting everything." "And you?" "I was assigned to his investigative unit," Gabriel said. "Covert oversight." When he realized the system itself was compromised, he went off-grid, started building safeguards. "Like you. Like me." We drove deeper into the forest, the road narrowing. "My father was murdered," I said quietly. Gabriel nodded. "They used a neurotoxin designed to mimic a stroke. Clean. Efficient. And today," I said, "they tried to use me." "Yes. Why now?" Gabriel glanced at me. "Because you turned 33 last month." I frowned. "What does that matter?" "Your genetic profile matured," he said. "Certain markers activate fully around that age. Your last routine blood test triggered an alert. So they accelerated the timeline. They staged the attack," he said. "If you died, problem solved." If you survived, they'd retrieve you as a dangerous asset. Either way, your father's files would be seized. And you stopped it, I said. I delayed it, Gabriel corrected. Barely. The SUV slowed as we approached a hidden turnoff. You still haven't told me who you really are, I said. Gabriel parked the vehicle beneath a canopy of trees and turned to face me. My name is Gabriel Stone, he said. That's real, but it's not the first one I used. Are you military? Former? Intelligence? Yes. Why help me? He met my eyes. Because your father saved my life, and because this program needs to end. I studied him. You're not just protecting me, I said. You're trying to finish what he started. Yes. We stepped out of the SUV. The air was colder here, cleaner. The forest felt ancient, watchful. Ahead, partially concealed by brush, stood the outline of an underground structure. A bunker, I asked. A vault, Gabriel corrected. Your father's. My heart pounded. What's inside? The truth, he said, and a choice. As we descended into the bunker, a strange sensation built in my chest, not fear but recognition. Like my body remembered something my mind had forgotten. We stopped before a massive steel door engraved with a familiar symbol, the Rowan crest. This place recognizes blood, Gabriel said softly. Yours. I placed my palm against the scanner. Light pulsed beneath my skin. The door unlocked. As it opened, I understood something with terrifying clarity. I wasn't running from my past. I was finally stepping into it. The steel door rotated open with a low, mechanical groan, like something waking after a long sleep. Cold air spilled out, dry and sterile, carrying the faint scent of metal and old paper. It wrapped around me instantly, raising goosebumps along my arms. The space beyond was circular, wider than I expected, with reinforced concrete walls lined floor to ceiling with sealed black containers. Each one was meticulously labeled with codes, dates, and classification levels. No names, no explanations, just evidence waiting to be understood. At the center of the room stood a glass pedestal, and on it rested a single leather-bound journal. I didn't need Gabriel to tell me what it was. My father S., I whispered. Gabriel nodded. He updated it every night for nearly 15 years. My feet moved before my mind caught up. The closer I got, the heavier my chest felt, as though the air itself carried weight. When I touched the glass casing, a soft chime sounded and the cover lifted automatically. He had thought of everything. My hands trembled as I picked up the journal. The leather was worn, edges softened by use. This wasn't just a record, it was a confession. I opened to the first page. Alyssa is 6 years old today. She asked me why doctors always want her blood. My breath caught. I turned the page. I told her she's special. That was a mistake. I don't want her to grow up believing she owes the world something just because it watches her. I swallowed hard. This is why he never explained, I said. He didn't want me to feel like an experiment. He didn't want you to feel owned, Gabriel said quietly. I kept reading. Page after page documented my childhood through a lens I had never known existed. Routine pediatric visits flagged by off-books physicians. Blood samples requested under forged consent. Immunity responses logged at levels that made researchers uneasy. They don't understand it, my father had written. They thought evolution was something they could force, but Alyssa wasn't forced. She's natural, and that terrifies them. Tears blurred my vision. He loved you, Gabriel said softly. I know, I whispered. That's what hurts. I turned to a later entry. I have proof now. Financial trails, shell corporations, medical procurement contracts tied to defense agencies. They're hiding the project inside budget line items no one audits. My father hadn't just suspected something, he had dismantled it piece by piece. How deep did it go? I asked. Gabriel crossed his arms. Deep enough that when he brought it to an oversight board, they panicked. Panicked? They ordered the project shut down, he said. But they underestimated how much power was concentrated at the top. The order never reached the people who mattered. And my father? I asked. He became a liability. I flipped toward the final third of the journal. The handwriting changed, more hurried, less careful. I'm being followed now. Unmarked vehicles. phones ringing with no one on the line. If something happens to me, Alyssa must never be taken in alive. My chest tightened. He knew, I said. Yes, I reached the final entry. If you're reading this, my sweet girl, then I failed to stop them in time. But you are not a weapon. You are proof that humanity doesn't need to be engineered to survive. They fear you because you represent what they can't control. I closed the journal and pressed it to my chest. For years, I had believed my father was quiet because he was ordinary. Now I understood. He was quiet because he was carrying something that could get him killed. Why didn't he run? I asked Gabriel. Why didn't he take me and disappear? Because he knew they'd find you, Gabriel said. And because he believed exposure was the only way to end it. I nodded slowly. What happens now? Gabriel gestured toward the far wall. Now you see what he built. Hidden panels slid open, revealing a row of secure terminals embedded into the wall. Screens flickered to life, illuminating the vault in a cold blue glow. What is all this? I asked. A failsafe, Gabriel said. Every document he gathered, every recording, every name. Names. I stepped closer, scanning one of the displays. Politicians. Corporate executives, military contractors, people whose faces appeared on television, whose voices shaped policy. They sanctioned this, I whispered. Yes, and they killed him for it. Yes, and now they're coming for me. Yes. I felt something settle inside me then, not fear, not panic, but resolve. What did he want me to do? I asked. Gabriel hesitated. He wanted you to choose. A terminal at the center of the room powered up, its screen displaying two glowing options. What happens if I choose the first? I asked. You comply, Gabriel said. You're taken into custody, studied, controlled, kept alive. And the second, everything goes public. I stared at the screen. If I expose them, they'll hunt me forever. Yes. If I don't, I said, they'll bury the truth with me. Yes. The bunker trembled faintly, distant vibrations carried through the earth. They're getting close, Gabriel said. I thought of my father, of Sophie, of the life I had believed was safe because it was small. I placed my hand on the terminal. They already took my father, I said. They don't get to take the truth too. My finger hovered over the second option. Revelation, I pressed it. The room hummed to life. Data began streaming, files unlocking, transmissions launching across secure channels pre-programmed by my father. Global media, independent watchdogs, international oversight groups. There was no stopping it now. Gabriel exhaled sharply. You just ended their secrecy. Alarms blared, red lights pulsed. They know, he said. We have to move. As we ran for the exit tunnel, helicopters thundered overhead, searchlights slicing through the forest canopy. But something inside me had changed. They weren't chasing a frightened woman anymore. They were chasing the truth. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what they'd find. We didn't stop running until the tunnel opened into a narrow ravine behind the bunker. Gabriel sealed the exit behind us, punching in a code so fast I barely saw his fingers move. The ground vibrated beneath my feet as helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights slicing through the trees like blades. They'll secure the vault within minutes, I said, breathless. What if they shut it down? They can't, Gabriel replied. Your father designed the release to be decentralized. Once it started, it couldn't be stopped. We moved quickly through the forest, staying low, using terrain as cover. My lungs burned, but my body kept pace in a way that surprised me. I should have been exhausted. Instead, I felt sharp, focused. Is this part of it? I asked suddenly. The program, Gabriel glanced at me. You tell me, are you tired? I shook my head. That's not normal, I said. No, he agreed. It's not. We reached the SUV and took off again, winding through back roads that felt deliberately forgotten. Only when we were miles away did Gabriel finally slow down. There's something you need to understand, he said. What you saw in that vault was only the surface. My chest tightened. Then tell me the rest. He reached into the glove compartment and handed me another tablet. This is classified beyond what your father ever intended you to see, he said. But now it doesn't matter. The screen lit up. I scrolled slowly. They called it a program, Gabriel said. But that was misdirection. It wasn't a single experiment. It was a doctrine. Explain, I said. After multiple global pandemics and near biological catastrophes, he began, certain defense groups came to a conclusion: humanity was too fragile. My jaw tightened. So they decided to redesign it. Yes. Charts filled the screen, failed trials, terminated subjects, anomalies marked in red. They tried gene editing, synthetic immunity. Artificial adaptation, Gabriel continued. Nothing worked long-term, the body rejected it. And then they found families like mine, I said. Not found, he corrected. Observed, I stopped scrolling. What does that mean? Some bloodlines had already begun adapting, Gabriel said. Rare mutations. Immune responses that shouldn't exist yet. You're saying evolution was already happening. Yes. And instead of letting it happen naturally, they tried to own it. I felt sick. They didn't create you, Alyssa, he said again. They tried to harvest you. Images flashed across the tablet, hospital rooms disguised as clinics, researchers posing as pediatric specialists, consent forms altered after signatures. They monitored you from birth, Gabriel said. Blood samples, tissue scans. Immune challenges disguised as routine vaccinations. I remembered crying as a child, needles pricking my arm again and again. They were testing my limits, I whispered. Yes, I scrolled further. Complete resistance to engineered viral strains, accelerated cellular repair under stress, no observed autoimmune rejection. My fingers trembled. They wanted to replicate this, Gabriel said. Extract it, patent it, weaponize it, and my father stopped them. He tried, I looked up. What went wrong? Gabriel's grip tightened on the steering wheel. They didn't just want your biology, he said. They wanted control. Control how? By shaping the narrative, he said. By deciding who you were allowed to be. I scrolled to the final section. What is Phase 2? I asked. Gabriel didn't answer right away. Phase 2, he said finally, was never about science. It was about obedience. My stomach dropped. They intended to position enhanced individuals as threats, he continued. Then offer containment as protection. Compliance in exchange for survival. Turn us into enemies, I said, so no one would question what they did to us. Yes, the pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. The attack at my workplace, I said. That was Phase 2, Gabriel nodded. They needed a face, a civilian, someone believable. Someone like me. Yes. Silence filled the SUV. I stared out the window, watching trees blur past. They were going to erase my life, I said, and replace it with a lie. They still are, Gabriel said. The exposure slowed them down. It didn't stop them. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I froze. No, Gabriel said quickly. Don't answer. I looked anyway. My face was already on the screen beneath the text. A photo pulled from my employee badge. They're moving fast, I whispered. They have to, Gabriel replied. Because the more people read your father's files, the harder it becomes to control the fallout. What happens now? I asked. He met my eyes. Now you stop running. I laughed bitterly. You're joking. No, he said. I'm being honest. They have drones, satellites, resources I can't even imagine. And you have something they don't, he said. What? The truth and a body that doesn't break the way they expect. I stared at him. You want me to fight them? I want you to survive long enough for the truth to matter, he said. Whether that becomes a fight is up to them. The SUV slowed near an abandoned research facility hidden behind fencing and vines. This is one of their old sites, Gabriel said. Decommissioned. Or so they think. We stepped out into the cool night air. You still haven't told me everything, I said. There's one more thing, he admitted. I waited. They weren't just tracking you, Alyssa, Gabriel said. They were waiting. For what? For the moment you chose revelation over compliance. My chest tightened. They knew you might expose them. Yes, and they planned for it. Yes. A distant boom echoed in the sky, sonic, unnatural. Gabriel looked up sharply. That's not a helicopter, he said. What is it? A retrieval drone. My pulse surged. They're adapting, I said. So will you, Gabriel replied, whether you want to or not. I looked at my hands, flexing my fingers. They felt steady, strong. Whatever they had tried to turn me into, I wasn't their weapon. I was their mistake. And for the first time, I understood why my father had never wanted me to know. Because once you realize what you are, you can never pretend to be ordinary again. The sound wasn't loud at first. It was wrong. A low-frequency hum that vibrated in my chest rather than my ears, like pressure building before a storm. Gabriel froze beside me, eyes tracking the sky. "Move," he said sharply. We ducked beneath the skeletal remains of the abandoned research facility, just as a cone of white light swept across the clearing. The drone passed overhead, sleek, silent, predatory. "They're scanning for heat signatures," Gabriel whispered, "and biomarkers." "Mine?" I asked. "Yes." My pulse spiked, but something strange happened. The fear didn't take over. Instead, my thoughts sharpened. The world felt clearer, edges more defined, like someone had turned up the resolution on reality. "Gabriel," I said slowly, "I don't think it can see me." He frowned. "What?" I stepped slightly out of cover. The light swept over the space where I stood, then moved on. Gabriel stared at me. "That's impossible," he muttered. "I don't feel invisible," I said. "I feel regulated." A memory surfaced, something my father once said after a routine checkup. "Your body adapts faster than most." At the time, it had sounded like reassurance. Now it felt like prophecy. "We need to get inside," Gabriel said, "before they recalibrate." We slipped through a rusted service entrance and into the facility's interior. Dust coated the floors, but the lights flickered on as soon as we crossed the threshold. "Still has power," I said. "Because it was never really abandoned," Gabriel replied. "Just forgotten." We moved through corridors lined with cracked glass and faded warning signs. Symbols marked the walls: biohazard warnings, clearance levels, research unit numbers. Then we reached a sealed room at the heart of the structure. A smaller vault. Gabriel stopped. "This wasn't in your father's files," he said. "How do you know?" "Because if I'd known about this," he said quietly, "I would have been here years ago." The door recognized me instantly. It slid open without resistance. Inside, the room was stark and clean, untouched by time. At the center stood a single chair surrounded by a halo of monitors. "What is this?" I asked. Gabriel didn't answer right away. "Then this is where they tried to understand you." A chill crawled up my spine. I approached one of the monitors. It lit up at my touch. I scrolled. They hadn't just studied my blood. They had studied my responses under stress. Illness simulations, environmental exposure, psychological pressure models. "They never injected you," Gabriel said, reading over my shoulder. "They didn't have to. They observed how your system reacted when it encountered threats naturally." My stomach twisted. "They were waiting for me to break. They were waiting for you to adapt." Another file opened automatically. My breath caught. "What's that?" Gabriel leaned closer. "Your father created it." The file expanded. "If Alyssa is ever pursued as an asset, she must be shown the truth before she is captured. She must understand what she can do, not to become a weapon, but to choose restraint." "What can I do?" I whispered. The room responded before Gabriel could. A biometric scan initiated automatically. Lights traced my outline. The air hummed softly. Suddenly, data flooded the monitors. Heart rate, cellular activity, neural mapping. My pulse remained steady. "Alyssa," Gabriel said slowly, "your body isn't just immune." "To what?" I asked. "To control." I looked at him. "Explain." "They tried chemical suppression, neural conditioning." "Behavioral triggers," he said. "Nothing worked. Because your nervous system doesn't respond predictably," he said. "It self-corrects." The implications slammed into me. "They can't program me." "No," Gabriel said, "and that terrifies them." A final video file loaded. My father appeared on the screen, alive. My breath caught painfully in my throat. "Alyssa," he said, his voice calm, steady. "If you're seeing this, then you've already been forced into a position I hoped you'd never face." Tears streamed down my face. "They will try to define you," he continued, "as dangerous, as unstable, as something that must be controlled." He leaned closer to the camera. But listen to me. Your strength isn't what your body can survive. It's what your mind refuses to surrender. The video cut. Silence filled the room. I sank into the chair without realizing it, hands gripping the armrests. They can't break you, Gabriel said quietly, but they can still hurt people around you. My chest tightened. Sophie, I whispered. Gabriel nodded grimly. They'll look for leverage, I straightened. Then we don't give them any. The facility shuddered, distant explosions rippling through the ground. They've found the site, Gabriel said. I stood. What happens now? Now, he said, you stop being reactive. I met his gaze. I want to know everything, I said. No more pieces. No more protection. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Then I'll tell you the final truth. He gestured to the chair. This system doesn't just monitor you, he said. It trains, my pulse quickened. Trains me for what? For the moment you stop running, Gabriel said. Outside, the drone's hum intensified. They were closing in. But for the first time, I wasn't wondering if I would survive. I was wondering what they would do when I didn't break. The chair locked into place with a sound that was too gentle to be comforting. Soft restraints slid over my wrists and ankles. Not tight, not painful, just firm enough to remind me that the system had already assumed consent. The monitors surrounding me came alive, flooding the room with pale blue light. Gabriel moved toward me instinctively. Stop, I said. He froze. I need this, I added, surprising both of us. Outside, the low hum of the retrieval drone deepened, shifting pitch. It was closer now. Searching. Alyssa, Gabriel said carefully, training systems like this don't teach theory. They induce stress. I know, I replied. That's the point. The interface projected a three-dimensional model of my nervous system into the air. Pulses of light traced neural pathways, highlighting regions that glowed brighter than the rest. These nodes, Gabriel said, pointing, they don't behave like standard threat response circuits. Because they don't amplify fear, I said, watching the model. They isolate it. Gabriel looked at me sharply. You already understand, he said. I think I always have, I replied. I just didn't have language for it. The system chimed. The lights dimmed. The air temperature dropped. A simulated environment unfolded around me, not virtual, not exactly. The room reconfigured itself, panels shifting, walls moving, transforming the space into a narrow corridor. Concrete, fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic and metal, a holding facility. My breath caught not in fear but recognition. They built this from my memories, I said. Gabriel's voice came through a hidden speaker. Yes, it's adaptive. Footsteps echoed ahead. A door slammed shut behind me. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, faces blurred, movements precise. Their presence radiated authority without emotion. Subject 7B, one of them said. You will comply. My heart rate spiked, then stabilized. The system tracked it instantly. They approached. One grabbed my arm. Pain flared, sharp, deliberate. My body reacted before my thoughts did. Not with resistance, with correction. The pain dulled, localized, neutralized. The figure hesitated. I twisted free, not through strength but timing. His grip loosened for a fraction of a second, and that was enough. I stepped back, breathing evenly. The system chimed again. The scenario dissolved. I was back in the chair. Gabriel stared at me, stunned. You didn't fight them, he said. I didn't need to, I replied. They were expecting panic. Or rage. Instead, you gave them nothing. Yes. The next scenario loaded instantly. The environment reformed into something far worse. A small room, dim lighting. Sophie sat in a chair at the center. Alive, unhurt, smiling nervously. My chest tightened, but my breath remained steady. This isn't real, I whispered. No, Gabriel said softly. But your response will be. A voice echoed through the room. Your compliance ensures her safety. Sophie looked up at me. Alyssa, she said, what's happening? My hands clenched. Not because I was losing control, because I was choosing it. I stepped forward. I know what you're trying to do, I said to the empty air. You're measuring my breaking point. Sophie's image flickered. The system adjusted, intensifying emotional input. Tears streamed down Sophie's face now. "Please," she cried. "Just do what they say." Pain bloomed in my chest, real this time. But beneath it, something else activated. Perspective. This wasn't Sophie. "And even if it were, they don't stop hurting people when you comply," I said aloud. "They escalate." The room trembled. The scenario destabilized. Sophie vanished. The room collapsed back into the chair. My pulse never exceeded baseline. Gabriel exhaled slowly. "They can't control you with fear," he said. "No," I replied. "But they can still hurt me." "Yes, and they can still hurt others." "Yes." Silence settled between us. Then the system initiated the final scenario without warning. The room transformed into something deceptively calm. A conference room, a long table. 3 figures seated at the far end, faces clear now. Human, calm, reasonable, one of them smiled. "You're extraordinary," he said, "and we don't want to destroy you." I said nothing. "We want to protect the world," another said, "and you can help us." They slid a document across the table. "Compliance," the first said, "in exchange for safety, for anonymity, for peace." "And if I refuse?" I asked. They exchanged glances. "We will redefine you," the third said. "As a threat." I leaned back in my chair. "This is the choice," I said quietly. "Yes," the first replied. "It always was." I studied them. "They think this is hypothetical," I said suddenly. Gabriel's voice crackled faintly through the speaker. "What do you mean?" "They think this is still a simulation," I said. "But it's not." The figures stiffened. The system stuttered. I stood. The restraints released automatically. "This system isn't just training me," I said. "It's connected." Gabriel's voice sharpened. "Connected to what?" "To their decision models," I said. "To the real-time response network." The figure's expressions shifted, subtle but unmistakable. "Fear." "You're using me to predict outcomes," I said. "To decide how to handle me." The room flickered. I stepped forward. "You want my answer?" I asked. Silence. "I won't comply," I said calmly, "and I won't disappear." The room shattered. The chair released me fully. Alarms blared. The real world slammed back into place as the facility shook violently. "They're breaching the perimeter," Gabriel shouted, running toward me. "They already have," I said. The monitors displayed live feeds, armed units surrounding the building, drones repositioning, command centers scrambling. "They just learned something," I added. "What?" Gabriel asked. "That I'm not predictable." The system powered down abruptly. One final message appeared on the central screen. I stared at the word. "Uncontainable." Outside, explosions rocked the facility. Gabriel grabbed my arm. "We need to move now." "No," I said. He stopped. "What? If we run," I said, "they keep controlling the narrative. And if we stay, then we change it." I stepped toward the facility's main terminal. "What are you doing?" Gabriel demanded. "Ending phase 2, I replied. I placed my hand on the console. The system recognized me instantly. Access granted. Data streams flooded the screen. Live connections to agencies, research divisions, black budget programs. "All this time," I said, fingers flying across the interface, "they've been deciding who gets to be human." Gabriel watched, awed and terrified. "Alyssa," he said. "Once you do this, there's no going back," I finished. "I know." I initiated the release, not a data dump, a narrative breach. Context, evidence, timelines, names, faces, proof. The screens flashed confirmation. Outside, the drones faltered, momentarily confused, recalibrating. "They'll recover," Gabriel warned. "Yes," I said. "But the world won't forget." The facility shuddered again, harder this time. "Time to go," Gabriel said. I nodded. As we ran, I glanced back at the terminal one last time. For the first time in my life, the truth was no longer locked away. And neither was I. The facility burned behind us as Gabriel and I disappeared into the trees. By morning, it would be labeled a classified accident. By afternoon, the explanation would change. By night, no one would agree on what had happened at all. That was the point. Truth doesn't arrive like a headline. It arrives like a crack, and cracks spread. Within hours, fragments of the data I released surfaced everywhere. Not all of it, never all at once, but enough. enough for journalists to notice inconsistencies, enough for scientists to question long-buried assumptions, enough for ordinary people to ask why certain names kept disappearing from records. They tried to shut it down. Accounts were deleted, servers seized, whistleblowers discredited. But once something is seen by enough eyes, it stops being controllable. It becomes memory. They never arrested me. That surprised people. It surprised them even more that they stopped calling me a terrorist. Not publicly, at least. Privately, I know the files still exist. The threat assessments, the simulations, the projections of what I might do if pushed too far, they don't understand that I don't want power, I want distance. Gabriel vanished 2 weeks after the breach. Not dramatically, not violently. One day he simply wasn't where I left him. No note, no signal, I don't believe he's dead. People like him don't die when they're no longer useful. They relocate. Sophie is alive. That matters more than anything else. She doesn't know the whole truth. She never will. Some knowledge isn't protection, it's weight. I told her enough to explain why I had to leave, why I couldn't come back, why she should never try to find me. She cried. So did I. Some losses don't come from failure. They come from survival. The programs didn't end. They never do, but they changed. Funding was rerouted. Oversight committees formed. Language softened. Transparency promised. The word containment disappeared from official documents. The word ethics appeared. That's how you know they were scared. New research surfaced, legitimate research. Public research. Scientists acknowledging that human adaptation isn't something to be owned or rushed or weaponized. Evolution doesn't obey timetables, and it doesn't answer to authority. They never found another variant like me, not because they don't exist, but because people learned how to hide. I live quietly now. Different name. Different face in databases that don't talk to each other anymore. I still feel the system inside me sometimes. Not a machine, not a weapon, just a deep, steady awareness. My body correcting, recalibrating, surviving without asking permission. I don't train, I don't prepare, I don't need to. What they failed to understand is this: I was never dangerous because of what I could withstand. I was dangerous because I could choose. And so can others. Sometimes I think about my father. About the impossible position he was in. About the choice he made to protect one life instead of advancing a future built on coercion. People like to believe progress requires sacrifice. They're wrong. Progress requires restraint. The world keeps moving, messily, imperfectly, human, and somewhere inside that chaos a line now exists, a line they know not to cross too openly again. Not because of me, but because of what I proved.